Nigeria's rebased GDP now stands at 372.82 trillion naira. And on paper, that's huge growth. But for millions of Nigerians, nothing has changed. Prices are still high, wages haven't improved, public education is struggling, and insecurity is keeping our farmers away from the farmlands. Good evening and welcome to TUC Half Hour, your weekly labor updates bringing workers' voices to the national conversation, proudly sponsored by the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria. I am your host, Judith Trust, and it is great to have you with us tonight. Tonight we continue our special interview series with the President of the Trade Union Congress, Comrade Festus Osifo. In this installment, the TUC President reacts to the new GDP numbers, addressing why this growth hasn't touched ordinary lives, how unused lands could unlock jobs and food security, and why fixing security must come before any talk. TUC Half Hour continues right after this break.
The Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASEN, warmly welcomes invited guests and members to the 4th edition of the PENGASEN Energy and Labour Summit PILS 2025. Theme: Building a Resilient Oil and Gas Sector in Nigeria, Advancing HSE, ESG Investment and Incremental Production. Date: Wednesday 20th to Friday 22nd August 2025. Venue: Congress Hall, Transcorp Hilton, Abuja. Time: 10 a.m. daily. Special guest of honor: Honorable Minister of Labor, Employment and Productivity, Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil and Gas. Keynote speakers: NUPRC Chief Executive, NMDPRA Chief Executive, NNPC Limited GCEO, Executive Secretary PTDF, Executive Secretary NCDMB, lead paper presenters, managing directors and chief executives of IOCs and OCs, and leading experts in Nigeria's oil and gas industry. The event will conclude with a gala night on Friday, 22nd, with the presentations of awards to winners of the PENGASEN National Essay Competition for secondary schools in Nigeria. Chief host, Comrade Engineer Festus Osifo, President PENGASEN. Announcer, Comrade Lumumba Igotemu Okubawa, General Secretary PENGASEN.
It's great to have you on the show today, sir.
Thank you so much, Judith. Thank you for having me.
The GDP rise has been linked to sectors like ICT, construction, and manufacturing. But what do these sectors reflect growth and employment? Can we link them to employment of the people?
Thank you so much, Judith. Yes, of course. Manufacturing have the potential to actually grow much more. When you say manufacturing today, what's actually the percentage of manufacturing to the GDP? Yes, the sector has grown, but what's the percentage compared to the services sector, like finance and all that? So that is why we have been clamoring that all the bottlenecks that are making manufacturing not to explode, all the bottlenecks that are hindering manufacturing from growing should be removed. Issues about, yes, they've tried to a large extent now to address the issue of double taxation when the new tax bill is fully implemented. That may be addressed to some extent, but the issues about custom clearance, the issues about clearing fees, you are bringing in mercenary to the country, you are slammed with huge exchange rates, the issues of fluctuation of naira, multiple issues that are strangulating manufacturing sector from realizing their potentials. They must clearly be addressed. Some items or some equipment, some are being manufactured locally with the manufacturer approaching the bank and you slamming the company with 30% interest rate. Meanwhile, the counterparts in India, the counterpart in China, they are getting grants from government. But at times, they also get when they get loans, it's on single digit, 2%, 3%, 4%. So how can us as a country be able to compete with those people that are bringing in goods or smuggling in goods from China that are collecting loan at about 2%, 3%, 4%, compared to us, at times even 30%. So government must quickly look at how to bring down the issues of inflation so that the issue of the minimum discount rate, the MPRO must be brought down. The MPRO must be brought down to the barest minimum so that banks can lend money to the real sector at close to single-digit interest rate. That is only when you will see the manufacturing sector growing in leaps and bounds. Then, talking about the ICT, today, if you look at what is driving the world, today we are talking about a world being led by machine learning. We're talking about a world that is being led by AI, by blockchain technology. How much have we tapped into these resources? How much have we connected to this? How much has government actually pushed policies, encourage investors, encourage inventors to move in that direction? I was fortunate to be in Silicon Valley some days back. You need to see what young people are doing all over the world. And Silicon Valley in California is also being replicated in India. A mini one is replicated in China. These people are growing. How much have we done in terms of innovation? Today, you have a lot of unicorns growing everywhere. Unicorn is actually a business that is valued at about $1 billion. You have a lot of unicorns that are growing everywhere. How many of these unicorns are founded by Nigerians? When we have Nigerians with the intellect, we have Nigerians with the intellectual acumen to be able to grow some of these organizations or to grow some of these startups. But what is hindering us is actually the enabling environment. Because clearly, with the systems that we've set up in Nigeria, it's difficult. The unicorns that are being grown in Nigeria, the startups that are being grown in Nigeria, the evolution of ICT in Nigeria is majorly privately driven. They struggle here and there. They no power. They go and get electricity on their own. They get water on their own. They get literally everything on their own without the support of the states. So we can actually use innovation in leaping out of poverty. Yes, it can be done. We have intelligent Nigerians, superly smart Nigerians who will be able to drive this. But the constraints, government must free them from those constraints and enable them to be able to use innovation, to use ICT, to use the power of machine learning, artificial intelligence, that we have entered the era fully, to use it to power a lot of Nigerians out of poverty. The potential in ICT is enormous. But like as I have said, the system must be developed for the youth to key into it and to thrive.
Thank you, sir, for that powerful insight. Yes, truly, we have the potential, we have the manpower and the capacity. What we need, therefore, is an enabling environment to ensure that these things are being implemented and we can see real growth and real change. So some people worry that this higher GDP might make the government feel like things are fine and delay needed actions like wage increases or support struggling families. So the question is, what steps is the TUC taking to make sure that this new GDP doesn't become an excuse to ignore the sufferings of Nigerian workers?
No. Nobody will use GDP as a means of making an excuse for not to address the plight of Nigerians. But instead, it's also a tool that we could also use for the benefit of our members much more. Because when we go to negotiating table, for example, when we go to the table and inflation figures are down, when we go to the table, the GDP figures are up, the revenue is up, that will aid our bargaining strength, most especially when revenue is growing and when GDP is also growing. It gives us more strength to be able to negotiate for the betterment of our members. And as we have always told government, one of the things that investors will look at before they come to your country to invest is actually the purchasing power, the earnings of your people. Judy, just think about it. You want to create a company and you are looking at the Nigerian market that we have about 220 million people, depending on the statistics that you are looking at. So when you are coming to the country, you are going to look at what the people, what they are earning, the average pay. So when you look at it, the minimum wage is just about 70,000 naira. Okay, how many people are on the minimum wage? You do the analysis. When you do the analysis and you see that the average earning of the populace is maybe somewhere around $300-400, as an investor, you will not want to come. Because the goods and services that you are going to produce, irrespective of the fact that we have high population, but the population is not empowered to be able to purchase some of these goods. So investors will run away. So those are some of the things they look at in the international world for them to be able to come to your country to invest. You have huge population, excellent. But has this huge population, what is the purchasing power of this huge population? When the purchasing power is not there, then it will be difficult. That is why you see companies, you see those Lebanese, you see the Chinese, you see the Indians that come to Nigeria. What are they producing? They are producing little goods whose values are not really high, because that is what Nigerians could afford. If somebody live in China to come and set up a tissue making company in Nigeria, set up plastic making company in Nigeria, how will that even increase your output? But if the purchasing power of the people is quite enormous, they will come and set up much more high profile companies because they know that the market is there. The people will be able to patronize them. So it's not just sufficient for us to keep bantering, we are 220 million people. Yes, but in this number, 2/3 of them, what is their earning? They live below poverty line. In this number, you have minimum wage earner whose wages cannot even afford the basic necessity of life. Then you want to sell this to an investor, they are super smart. So Nigerians, as a government, alongside the giants in the private sectors, we must all come down, sit down together and see how to really grow our economy to achieve development. Nigeria growing at about 3-point-something%. This is abysmal. We have the potential to grow in double digits. We can actually do it.
So for that important insight, truly the increased GDP is going to give the TUC a better bargaining power with the government. So now, earlier we spoke about security, insecurity specifically, and this remains a pressing concern nationwide. How is this ongoing insecurity affecting Nigerian workers?
Yes, it does affect. It does affect Nigerian workers greatly because if you look at it clearly, farmers are Nigerian workers. Farmers are Nigerian workers. So if a farmer could not go to farm, then that is his or her means of livelihood. It becomes a problem. Yes, Yes, we've seen some level of improvements here and there, some level of improvement that has been recorded in the security space. But we think that much more can be done. And one of the ways with which you solve the problem of insecurity is actually by economic growth and economic development. Judith, some of the areas where you see some of these bandits, where they operate, from the state capital, at times it will take you 2 to 3, 4 hours to be able to get to those areas where the banditries are operating. The reason is because of bad roads. It's bad road. If the roads were good and you have banditry coming there, maybe the security forces could get there on time. But if the roads are not good and they are operating, they will operate successfully without the security forces have been able to track them down into, so if you go to those communities, no water, no light, no good road, nothing. People are suffering in this country. So first, for you to reduce the state of insecurity, it is good. As we are bombing them, fighting them, it is good. We continue in that sphere. But secondly, and more importantly, we must look at the issue of economic development. We must take growth to every nook and crannies of this country. We must be able to give them good roads, motorable roads, give them good education, give them good health care. We must be able to produce this. The state government, the local government, what are they doing? Then above all this, it is high time we devolve and decentralize our police system. We hear politicians, what is their excuse? Oh, they will use it against themselves. How many politicians do we have in Nigeria? If you add all the people that are in political parties in Nigeria that have political party cards, I'm not sure they are up to 1 million. 1 million. If you not disaggregate that to the super weighty political parties, they are less than 100,000. So because of about 100,000 people that are greedy, that they will fight themselves, they are now allowing 200 million people to suffer? No, sir. No, man. It is totally wrong. So for us, what must be done is very clear. Let's decentralize the policing system. From the federal, you have state police. From state police, you have local government police, even community policing. This is what is done in Sena Klein. Nigeria is too big for us to have the centralized police system that we are having. It can never be effective. The entire police force, officially, they put around 400,000. But information came out recently that they are even less than 250,000. How can 250,000 policemen and women protect 220 million people? It will never work. So there must be decentralization of police force. And when you decentralize, they should also be enabled. Because the system we practice today, it's actually where they share money from the central government. So today, federal government collects over 50% of the revenue. So when you decentralize some of all these, you must also give them the sufficient allocation, decentralize the allocation as well, and reduce the allocation that you collect at the federal level before we now metamorphose into a better structure that states will generate their revenue and pay percentage to the center. That is what will bring about productivity. Otherwise, the status quo will remain. So for us, there must be decentralization of police. When you do these three things, you fight them with hardware, you do everything possible to develop those communities by giving them light, water, road, developing their education and their healthcare system. Then also, you will now decentralize the policing system. We strongly believe that when these are done, within the next 1 or 2 years, the insecurity issue will be a thing of the past.
Yes, so just as you said, this issue of insecurity is directly pointing at the state of the economy. And one key way that you have highlighted that we can address this is decentralizing the police force and allocating the resources to them to carry out the work that is needed. So finally, on this episode, we want to ask, now there's a growing call for policy reforms to better protect workers' rights. What are the most urgent reforms that you believe the government must prioritize right now?
Yeah, funny enough, the most urgent reform that we think that will indirectly protect the workers' right, or even directly, as the case may be, is electoral reform. Electoral reform is key, Judith. let me throw a little bit more light on this. When someone is contesting for a position, you want to go to the State House of Assembly to represent your constituency. If you know that the only way to get there is through the people's vote, you will go to them. Then when you are now elected, you are now in your State House of Assembly, you will also remember that you came in here with the people's vote. And that if you don't perform, that in 4 years' time, you will go back to the same people. And that if you don't perform, they will vote you out in the next 4 years. It will make you to perform. If you are a state governor, it is exactly the same thing. The same thing, House of Reps, Senate, and the president. But if you know that the people vote doesn't actually matter, that they will go to their polling units, they vote, carry out the rituals, they compare results, they read the results at the polling unit, then between the polling unit and the collation center, a lot of miracles will happen. The figures will be changed, figures will be inflated, results will be written. Judith, you will not be loyal to the people. Instead, you will become loyal to those that have the means to change the result in your favor. So when you are now elected, knowing that your results will change not at the polling unit per se, but at the collation center, you will be loyal to those people. You will not want to perform because in 4 years' time, you will still use the same method in achieving results. You heard what the former governor of Rivers State, Amechi, said, that in Rivers State, they used to write results. This is the former governor saying that. You've also heard what a former I think whether the current or the immediate past APC chairman in Rivers State also said, how they used to write local government results, that before election, they've written results. These are people that are confessing, and the authorities are not doing anything about them. They are working scot-free. They've told us how they write results, but we are doing nothing. And if we continue in that line, if we continue like that, I bet you that there is nothing that will change. Because the greatest right that everybody has, including workers, the greatest right we have is the power of ballot. But if that voting right ab initio is not there, if it's just a ritual for you to go to a polling unit and you vote and your vote doesn't count, then every other thing becomes secondary. So the number one reform that we are asking for is electoral reform, where systems will be put in place for votes to count. It is when this will happen that every other thing will fall in line. But in the absence of this, I think we are all joking.
Thank you for answering that question beautifully. Truly, electoral reform is one of the important policies that need to be implemented because the power is in the hands of the people, and until they come alive to that responsibility, and until we have those reforms in place that ensures that the people's votes count, we definitely would not have real progress as we know it. Thank you, sir, for joining us today on this special interview series. It has been a great conversation so far. Thank you for answering all these questions. And
the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASEN, warmly welcomes invited guests and members to the 4th edition of the PENGASEN Energy and Labor Summit PILS 2025. Theme: Building a Resilient Oil and Gas Sector in Nigeria, Advancing HSE, ESG Investment, and Incremental Production. Date: Wednesday 20th to Friday 22nd August 2025. Venue: Congress Hall, Transcorp Hilton, Abuja. Time: 10 a.m. daily. Special guest of honor: Honorable Minister of Labor, Employment and Productivity, Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil and Gas. Keynote speakers: NUPRC Chief Executive, NMDPRA Chief Executive, NNPC Limited GCEO, Executive Secretary PTDF, Executive Secretary NCDMB, lead paper presenters, managing directors and chief executives of IOCs and OCs, and leading experts in Nigeria's oil and gas industry. The event will conclude with a gala night on Friday, 22nd, with the presentations of awards to winners of the PENGASEN National Essay Competition for secondary schools in Nigeria. Chief host, Comrade Engineer Festus Osifo, President PENGASEN, Announcer, Comrade Lumumba Igotemu Okubawa, General Secretary, Pengassan.
Welcome back. From what the TUC president shared, one thing is made clear. GDP growth means nothing if it doesn't improve people's lives. To stay updated on stories that matters to Nigerian workers, follow TUC Half Hour on all social media platforms displayed on your screen. You can watch replays, hear the voices behind the headlines, and join the conversation shaping Nigeria's workforce. Thanks for watching TUC Half Hour. I am Judith Trust. God bless Nigerian workers.